climate resilience, and the challenges of protecting our working waterfront. This film reminds us that the battle for our neighborhoods is never just about buildings. It's about people, history, and the right to have a say in the place we call home. Before we begin, we'll hear from two people that were on the ground fighting side by side in tandem. Following the film, we are thrilled to welcome the filmmakers, Suki Hawley and Michael Galinsky, for discussion on their work and the impact for Battle for Brooklyn. After that, I will introduce Ron Schiffman, who will lead us in a dynamic panel discussion with some incredible voices who bring expertise, passion, and firsthand experience to the conversation. And finally, after the panel, I will close out the evening with some final thoughts and acknowledgements. I also want to take this moment in advance to thank the Brooklyn Public Library, especially Gretchen, for making sure this event came together. Their support for this event and Pioneerix for their generous partnership in making this event possible, and Raoul Rothblatt for helping us pull this together from Develop, Don't Destroy. Yeah. Your commitment to fostering meaningful dialogue is invaluable. Before we begin, I'm honored to introduce our first speaker and activist, Patti Hagan. Patti Hagan is an actual grassroots organizer. She was the first to sound the alarm about the Atlantic Area's development and never let up in her fight against it.
Yeah.
There you go, Patti.
Oh, got it. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Patti.
The battle for Brooklyn, like many a war, began by chance. The lead story in the Brooklyn paper of July 28, 2003, about the murder in City Hall of Councilman James E. Davis, Council District 35, had dominated the press for a week. The story just below, quote, Ratner may build Atlantic Terminal Stadium to house New Jersey Nets, was the first hint of new trouble. Alarmed at the thought of adding a big traffic snarling stadium to the already nightmarish intersection of Flatbush and Atlantic, I called Ratner's company. How many blocks? How many acres, I asked. Not to worry, a PR lady assured me. He hasn't netted the nets. I knew Ratner had used eminent domain to wipe out a thriving small business community in downtown Brooklyn to build the soulless Metrotech. I assumed he would be using eminent domain again on Prospect Heights. Little 3-year-old Prospect Heights Action Coalition, PHAC, sent out the alarm and began seriously recruiting. Our most important enlistee was the brilliant Jezra Kay, who took FAC into 21st century computer warfare, moving FAC beyond the ancient art of wall painting that the rest of us practiced. We'd been to Lesko. On October 14, Ratner threw a reception at Junior's, inviting a passel of retired NBA players. It was another of his theatrics, used to try to buy the New Jersey Nets. He needed a team, however bad, to justify building a stadium. All the sports reporters were there. When the show was over and Ratner came out to get into his limo, he came under surprise FAC ambush. FAC made all the sports pages the next day. Brooklyn Borough President, the height-challenged Marty Markowitz, was a big Ratner fanboy. All he knew about FAC was from the sports pages, so he didn't like us, and he refused to meet with us. Anyway, he was otherwise busy prepping Borough Hall for the December 10, 2003 unveiling of the maquette that Ratner's stadium architect, Frank Gehry, trucked 3,000 miles from California. FAC was not invited, but we were there. Our stunned eyes beheld the 3D miniature maquette, not just a stadium, but 17 skyscrapers up to 60 stories tall. behind it on 22 acres of Prospect Heights, altogether named Atlantic Yards. This monstrosity appeared to be, quote, the village from scratch, close quote, that Gary had said he always wanted to build. Atlantic Yards was a huge shock to us. No one had ever mentioned skyscrapers. For the first time, it occurred to us that maybe we wouldn't win this one. When a reporter asked Ratner how many people Atlantic Yards would displace, he answered, about 100. His glib answer made me furious. I doubted he had run a count, since he didn't care who or how many lost their homes and businesses. I did my own census. Through Christmas into New Year's, I went door to door. I documented nearly 1,000 people living affordably and working in Ratner's footprint of desire. Among them were a widowed Holocaust survivor, artist Louise Bourgeois, a well-known concert violin maker, a Saul Lewitt printmaking commune, and the frail elderly couple of Victoria and Russell Harmon, living in the same tenement apartment on Pacific Street since 1942. They wrote a heart-rending letter to Mayor Bloomberg asking him to save them from being forced into a nursing home by Ratner. On January 1, 2004, Tish James took her seat in the city council. At a November FACT meeting previously, council member-elect James had declared, quote, I have stood with the Prospect Heights Action Coalition since day one, close quote. She became our leader. Our efforts had also earned the support of legendary Yankees pitcher Jim Bouton, who had become, quote, a stadium scam expert, close quote, while writing Foul Ball and Ball 4. On January 13, James and Bouton drew an overflow crowd into the dark back room of Freddy's, the Dean Street dive that was rapidly becoming rebel headquarters. As well, we had the help of the great civil rights attorney Norman Siegel. He undertook a series of pro bono tutorials on the eminent domain, quote, takings, unquote, people had thought couldn't happen in America. Now the people were worried. They were joining FAC every day in the streets and in Freddy's bar. We kept morale high by drinking beer and painting banners in Freddy's basement. Even though badly daunted by having to fight 17 skyscrapers, in addition to the hideous stadium, we drank and painted as well as we could. We were gaining a political presence, appearing everywhere in the news, not just in the sports pages. We had a fit when we discovered the unbuilt Atlantic Yards was listed as crucial to New York City's bid for the 2012 Olympics. The stadium would be the venue for basketball and gymnastics. The skyscrapers would be athletes' dorms, the village. We went into a frenzy, painting banners with messages meant to insult the International Olympic Committee. Quote, Olympics not welcome, close quote. Quote, IOC don't dare, close quote. The banners were gigantic, the letters 4 feet tall. We hung the banners everywhere we could. FAC claimed credit when the IOC dropped New York City as a finalist the next year. It was our only victory. FAC no longer exists outside my archives. DDDB doesn't either, except in this film. In 2004, a Brooklyn historian described the 3 beautiful industrial blocks of Pacific Street she hoped landmarking could save. She wrote, it was along Pacific Street in Prospect Heights that 20th century prosperity in Brooklyn was created. R.I.P. And here is the newspaper that started me on this.